This week is about to start. Enjoy. Hello. Good morning, everyone listening to us. And thank you. The over 20,000 registered people participating in this first meeting of this week, this great event, gathering the greatest leadership in healthcare in Latin America. Before presenting or introducing our personality that is going to open our event, I'd like to, first of all, thank our sponsors who have enabled with their participation us to be here today, holding this event with so much care, professionalism. You will see over these 5 days how good has been built by young people in Rio de Janeiro, a group of cariocas from São Paulo, from Minas Gerais, people working in this collaboration, cooperation environment, and developing this project, which is the dream of all of us, of having a unity, a purpose to improve the access of Brazilian population to medical and hospital services of good quality that can be equitable to the whole of the Brazilian population. We've invited over 230 experts, panelists from all areas of the economy, not only from healthcare, so that along with us, they can share their experiences, their knowledge, so that health can actually be improved in terms of its performance. At the end of our meeting, thank you all very much for being with us. I am very grateful to this team of youngsters led by Rodrigo Vilar, doing spectacular work of development. I am totally confident that at the end of the 5 days starting today, with our first week, with Symetra this afternoon, we're going to have the presence of governor from the Rio Grande do Sul state, a young man, very talented. He's going to be talking to us about ESG in the Symetra event, which is the largest ESG event in healthcare in Brazil. I am totally certain that Governor Eduardo Leite will give great contribution and the discussion of governance, social responsibility, environmental issues, well, about the world that we want to leave as a legacy to our children, our grandchildren, the future generations, and the planet that is so dear to all of us be preserved so that we can have the lives we wish to have here always. Having said this, I'd like to introduce Mr. José Roberto Marinho, a public celebrity. Everybody know him. He's a spectacular individual. I have the honor being his friend. José Roberto Marinho is the vice president of the Global TV network, chair of the foundation Roberto Marinho, and he has actually a member of the board. He is the board member of the Tomorrow Museum, the icon of culture in the city of Rio de Janeiro and Brazil, one of the great references for the world as to how a modern museum should be and innovative. And all of this very much inspired in this beautiful figure that José Roberto Marinho is, who's going to talk about the world in movement. He is a very interested person in sustainability, environmental issues, climate issues. José Roberto is a person, an individual everybody will love to hear because he has a lot to share and teach with his knowledge that is not little. Thank you very much, José Roberto Marinho, for sharing your time and knowledge with us. Welcome, and the time is all yours for the beginning. Actually, you have been a fantastic person that has joined our lives, recently helping the Tomorrow Museum, Museu do Amanhã, and you're always willing to put people in touch to do this networking so that people that are actually doing a good job can leverage it, and which we need most now is to unite everyone that is actually doing major work for the future of mankind so that we can actually tweak a little bit this hand of a future that is quite challenging. It is a great pleasure to be part of this panel discussing this important topic for the present and future of mankind is related to that. And actually the world is in movement. It's no longer Copernicus movement of only turning at this huge speed around the sun. It's hallucinating day by day, moment by moment of great transformation, way people work in our lives, and technologies that we have been embracing every day. And I see that our minds, I don't know to what extent, our minds will be able to follow this amount of information, novelties, and new ways of our relating to things. And I see here at home, for example, my 16-year-old daughter, and some things she knows much more than I do. And she knows things that I can no longer understand. I cannot do the same way she does. But I think that the world and, well, mankind recently has made some wrong choices. I have no doubt that we have a responsibility for global warming. It is proven that the Earth would go at some point in a warming cycle, but obviously the pressure we put on it, the size of the intervention of humanity worldwide, we see the photos at night where we see these cities illuminated, and we see the intervention where we see the photos of aircrafts circulating, those trucks. We see the impact they cause, and we see the impact of certain industries. And I don't think it is possible for man not to have contributed to global warming. Man has to act very quickly to eliminate this bad part of greenhouse gas emissions and seek a way back of reforestation, of doing things in a more sustainable and less aggressive way to nature.
I had a very interesting experience, which was getting to know the project of Sebastião Salgado in Vale do Rio Doce. And there was a degraded area that was explored as a farm, and water had been gone. There was nothing else. A fully degraded area, and he embraced the challenge and just worked on reforestation. So 7 years later, I visited it. Water was back, the water reservoir was back, so a microclimate was restored, animals were back. So this is the good news. We can see that example, and that can be done in much larger scale. So we've made many wrong choices, but there are also good examples that just give us really a new hope, which is to move ahead within sustainability. Now, reflecting about sustainability trends, it's important to think about nature and society and the relation we have among them. We really want a long-lasting relation. If we understand the limits of Earth, we can bring together sustainability to consumption. Of course, we are not going to get to the level of consumption of the US society in the whole world. We would not have enough resources to do it. Therefore, we have to think about new possibilities of development. It should be less based on consumption of assets, but rather enriching relationships and emphasizing the simple things in life. But the main problem is lack of resources, lack of food, lack of water or electricity. But once we have that baseline, that we have everything to all of us, we can really evolve into a simpler life with our families, in our communities, so that we don't have to constantly try to buy the state-of-the-art car or the most modern things, which are not sustainable after all. And that's the problem in China. As a result of the increase in wealth in the country, the main challenge is for them not to want to have a Western world lifestyle. Fine, they want to buy a motorcycle, they want to buy a nice house, but not something beyond what would be bearable. Because if consumption level goes up in China, purchasing goods which are not essential, that will be a huge problem. And the same applies to India as well, because we are speaking about large scale, large population. So I think we have to really maximize the use of natural resources and encourage economic practices that understand we don't need everything that is being produced today in terms of consumer goods. Some of them are needed, others are not. So that should be part of our full understanding, a new way of seeing things and of seeing the distribution of wealth. Focusing on sustainability, it really makes us think about two sides, environmental or climate problems and also economic issues. And the world has been really making the commitment of thinking more about sustainability, applying the sustainability development goals established by sustainability development objectives by the UN, just focusing on actions that really can help us reduce inequality and offer more sustainability. Said that, we have to go from just speaking about that into putting into practice. There are not only nice words, no, it should be something that we really put into practice, make it our everyday routine. We have to realize that there are some possible choices to be made by humankind. A recently launched report in 2021 led by Pata Dasrupta, one of the choices is to focus on and keep on doing what we've been doing. Just expect too much from nature, really stressing our resources. And another possibility, which is not only sustainability or sustainable initiatives, but also the well-being of people and the well-being of future generations, To do that, we have really to transform the way we've been thinking and acting, changing our mindset, in other words. Poor choices so far have brought us to what we can see, the very serious climate crisis. So a recent report of the Intergovernment Committee just has given us a very gloom scenario, even before Glasgow, something that has really made us pay more attention. 1.5 to 2 degree increase of temperature will just be faster than initially thought. And unless we bring down CO2 emissions and other greenhouse gas effects, we are definitely going to have a problem. So 1.5 degree within the next decade would mean that some of the small islands would go away from the planet. But some other preliminary reports have also shown us that we have already achieved that 1.5 degree temperature increase in recent decades. So probably we're speaking about additional goals and additional challenges. We have also to think about territories such as the Netherlands, Florida, Delta River, in India, so some at sea level or even below sea level. That forecast for the upcoming decade, it's even more concerned when we think about the Paris Agreement, which all countries which are part of the UN fight against climate change have the emissions of CIG so that temperature would not go beyond 2 degrees increase in temperature. So countries haven't been done enough. Therefore, the report states that now we've been having an increase of 3 degrees in temperature. What has been done in the Paris Agreement has not been implemented. Large economies resist. They just blame the others and do nothing, as if decision makers hadn't realized yet how serious this is, or maybe there are other commitments that they cannot really get rid of and end up repeating what they had been done so far. So a set of initiatives have to be implemented so that we do not have the 2 degree temperature increase. Trying really to limit as much as possible temperature increase. And the whole supply chain, the whole chain is involved. But we have to be bold. If we just have just simple goals, we are never going to be able to achieve 2 degrees, let alone 3 or 4. And I think that this is quite serious. If there is a 3 degree temperature increase, that's going to be really a disaster, regional disasters. It's a very catastrophic scenario. We have to clearly put it. So all the young people who are listening to us today, they have to fight for their future. This is the time for people to learn more, to read reports, to understand what's going on. In Glasgow, there have been a number of demonstrations, but this is something that should happen around the world more and more. And not only to have demonstrations, show posters, but rather to try to focus on solutions, having goals, to really come up with alternatives to gas-based products and others, trying to come up with creative solutions. Because if we are giving an option, we always come up with solutions. So you see, we have no more time to solve problems and reach global sustainability. We have to start acting today. Therefore, the government should not be only an agent of regulation. The government should think about climate change, consequences, and get prepared. At the same time, encouraging the society to think about that. And this is something that the next step of Tomorrow Museum has been doing. When it gets to the end of the tour in the museum, where we talk about climate change, we also talk about what can be done by individuals, those visitors to the museum, so that they can contribute individually by recycling waste, by saving or not wasting water, in addition to fighting for different causes. Conversely, Josier, in the situation of social inequality that we can see in the world, so people don't know whether they are going to have a meal for that day, we cannot expect them to also be concerned or think about sustainability. And this is why we really have to address food safety and reduce social inequality so that everyone can really embrace the cause of sustainability. To present, we have business people, government, young people, university scholars. They have been embracing this cause. In Glasgow, as we've been all watching, they are coming to an agreement for the forests to help reduce deforestation based on international funds, methane and charcoal use. But the carbon market hasn't come to a decision yet, which is really important. And also the reduction of greenhouse gas. Because if we don't aim high, we will not succeed. We will probably go beyond the 3-degree temperature increase. Today in the morning, I was talking to a coordinator of Mapiomas. It's a monitoring system of Brazilian biome, and he is a specialist in this topic of global warming. I think our meeting today is really an opportunity to think about talking more about topics such as this. Let's work in coordination and always in a very realistic fashion so that we can really come up with actions that can make a change. This is how I think we should articulate our actions so that we can build a better future to everyone. Thank you very much.
Very, very good, José Roberto. We have great ideas and insights from you. So we started talking about how to ensure the access of the population to water, electricity, and we'd add education, healthcare, so that the population feels more welcome. We're talking about access. I think access is the great problem of Brazilian society, which is access to security, food, good transportation, dignified transportation. I think the greatest lack is access, that we should be permanently reflecting upon how people can have access to what they actually need. And within your vision of the environmental issue, it is evident that we are not reaching the grassroots community. They're not worried about the environment and the climate. What they want to do is to get employment, is the food prices and groceries. Well, climate is a future thing. And that's not a fact. We are living this because we are going through something that puts at risk the life of human beings on the planet, life overall. It's not the planet that is at stake, as the human life. We have to invert this logic of saying that we have to defend the planet. We have to defend life because the planet defends itself. It's going to survive. If we continue we are not going to survive. So you are a scholar in this environmental area, interested, you are a steadfast advocate of these environmental issues and the climate issues. Your DNA is communication, your life and your family and your previous life is based on communication. And I think that we at FIS are giving a small contribution with our event. First, by inviting you, and second, it is an event on ESG that addresses in one of its letters, it's E, environmental issues, and S of social responsibility. But we need to expand this, perhaps to primary schools, secondary schools, but fundamentally to teachers, José Roberto. And I think most teachers in Brazil, they do not have the necessary knowledge to discuss this environmental issue in a broad way with their students and put this in their day-to-day agenda for students. When I was a kid, I would get to school and we would get to school, sing the national anthem. So we had to sing the Brazilian national anthem to start the week. And I think today, in these new times, they remind more than that. When kids get to school on Monday, they should have a debate on environmental issues in a practical way so that they understand that they live near Recife. You have to tell them that that island of Fernando de Noronha may disappear if we continue at this pace. And people will not get to know Fernando de Noronha in the future if we do not prepare now and take care of the global warming that is happening today. And what we, ordinary citizens, can do for that. And for that, you have a large structure of communication. Do you think that communication on the environment can be improved in Brazil? What do you suggest that should be done so that we can reach the minds and hearts of people overall, José Alberto? Josier, look, I believe that the press has been, well, quite frankly, so it's been doing a good job regarding climate change, deforestation. All major media giving great importance to that and space. Folha de São Paulo, Estado de São Paulo, Valor, all the TV networks covering this. And I think that the press has been showing the importance we can use. The importance of this phenomenon and the severity of that. That's the first interest, the first impact, first information. We should organize all a system of communication and information that would go into schools, that would we're actually dedicated to this at the Roberto Marinho Foundation. I know of other organizations that are worried about this, of being able to support teachers in this journey, because teachers, they have this workload that is very big. They have to prepare questions of their day-to-day to address this topic. They need to have material so that they can work on them easily. So it is material on climate change, on the importance of the forests, the importance of water, on consumption. They have to receive a tutorial embedded there so that they can open the materials and use the material in the classroom easily. So this has to be part of the classroom activities. This has to be part of the conversations. We have to supply that. We have to find an intelligent way of addressing these topics in social media. All the influencers around, many of them are engaged. Alok, for example, who is an influencer, he's a great DJ, has great penetration towards youngsters. He's been working for the Amazon. He made a broadcast at the Amazon. He's totally committed to this cause. So we have to bring other of these communicators that have great impact today for this cause. So to answer your question, we have to set up, it would be interesting to set up a group to think about that. It's quite urgent as to how to expand the outreach of this knowledge on the topic, because this goes through schools, as I said, trainers, influencers, means of communication, or this is great communication, and it has to go through all these media. Perfect. Zé, let's divert our conversation slightly. I'd like to hear your opinion on certain aspects that seem to be related to sustainability, obviously, but I'm talking a bit more about sustainability, human sustainability related to poverty, great poverty that has grown a lot in the world. I see reports and literature that the impact of industrial revolution, for example, was a very strong impact on unemployment, craftsmen that lost their possibilities of developing their skills and producing things that would provide their possibility to make ends meet. I see a certain fear, panic, great concern regarding technological incorporations and robotics that have reached the world regarding loss of jobs, and that certainly will happen. How can we actually be preparing the world for this new era of barrettes, genes, of atoms, and allow this technological incorporation not to be the cause of yet another tragedy in the world regarding unemployment, hunger, loss of hope of the majority of the poor population in the world. How can we create a new economic and social order in the world that can be collaborative so that the world can survive the inevitable progress and incorporation of new digital technologies that will make employment or jobs to be formal, the jobs that we know, they will be extinct. Do you have any idea, any vision as to how we could be discussing this topic in future seminars, José Roberto Marinho? This is a very broad question. As to the influence of digital technologies in employment, in history, we've always faced revolutions of innovation. I fear that automation and advance of technology will lead to loss of jobs massively. But as you change the mode of production in history from the past until now, you have another demand in services, which has been demand for labor. Industrial Revolution has released workers using machines, but has employed a large number of people in the area of services. And then it's moved on. The question currently is quite difficult. It's a bit more difficult. We need to rethink the world regarding activities, turning the world a bit more modern, and perhaps following what Harari said, the author of Homo sapiens, where he asked less with employment and more were about humans. So the world has to reinvent. And the economic, we had several publications. We had the future of jobs, and it shows that what was considered future of jobs has arrived by 2025. As far as I know, automation and technology will impact almost 100 million jobs worldwide. So in this scenario, public and private sectors will have to work together to ensure more security for jobs, improve educational systems, and create incentive to invest in emerging markets for these jobs of tomorrow. And also, local production, hyper-local production will gain importance. When you talked about handwork, what is impressive today, what we see, a lot of people employed by arts and crafts. There we have huge numbers. So in terms of employment and income generation, so new activities that are back to being appreciated, be it in the things that you take home, in the relationships with people, meeting places, and food that you go after. And so all this hotel, service, market, all of this, I don't see yet possible replacement for labor. So we have to protect human beings, and we must have information of good quality. For that, once again, we have to tap into science. We have behavioral studies, take sociology, anthropology, economics. So use all this knowledge to see the change and build the new alternative world of labor. Obviously, here in the case of Brazil, we have to invest a lot in the training of people for these jobs of tomorrow, because this is not yet being done.
At least it should not be done as much as it should. Then it goes into university courses, into computer sciences, data intelligence, gamification of life. We also have to be prepared for really training these experts. In Brazil, we are not forming this new generation. And in addition, we are exporting these science minds. Very bad moment for Brazil. We really have to have a program to bring them back, to bring our brilliant brains back into Brazil so that we can be competitive in this new world. Another point concerns collaborative models. We can think about that as well. I normally say that we are lagging behind. Humankind is really lagging behind in terms of development because we are still wasting so much time, efforts, and resources in wars. We are wasting lives. So if we could live in peace without spending our energy in fight and wars, we would come up with solutions for most of our problems. However, humankind is really very delayed in its civilization development, so to speak. So I think that we really have to be prepared for low carbon economy resulting from political, technological changes. And we can really, with that, bring more opportunities to Brazil. Brazil is a country that really produces food. So technology helps with mechanization, our most advanced agribusiness. But at the same time, there is family traditional agriculture. And it has also gained importance. Local product, which really gives a special touch to a restaurant, forest-based products, for example, Brazilian nuts and superfoods that have to be carefully produced. Therefore, it is a family-based kind of agriculture. Strawberry, for example, artichoke, asparagus, and other forest products such as acai. And Brazil is extremely rich in this diversity. And this is something that has gained more and more importance. We used to have a huge diversity of potato in the past. Now we just have one basic type of potato, and now growers are coming up with different kinds of roots and potatoes, some of them even richer from a nutritional point. And we are here with experts in healthcare. I participated in a survey of traditional foods which were replaced by high production items. And now reviewing that, we can see that these original foods used to be much more nutritional. So as you can see, these are niches that generate also more job opportunities, but which are not obviously put once we see the technological revolution. So on the one side, we really have to keep updated with technology progression. And at the same time, we should value what is done by indigenous populations and the different groups. I'm also part of a work with the Amazon Entrepreneurship Center. We are providing access to products, access to items. People are living better. And as such, it means improvement in the region. But that would be a topic that we could go on and on talking. It is really a constant challenge, which is jobs really being lost. But you see, we need small initiatives, as you pointed out. I think that's good. You've given us some positive input. Concerning low carbon emissions, methane gas, some industries in the economy seem to resist because they think it might end up limiting their financial gains. And what you were saying is that it's most possible to bring together gains and at the same time doing things better with agri-industry, for example, as an attempt really to maintain environmental issues. Well, we are coming close to our end, but we hear so much about fake news. People start saying lots of things which makes no sense, just in an attempt to protect their own businesses. And some are fake news, they are misinformation. But I think that it can all change if we can just show the potential advantages of these initiatives. For example, carbon credit. In these final minutes that we have, I would like to ask you to tell us, how can people monetize their business thinking about protecting the environment, taking into consideration carbon credits and methane. So let's say I'm a cattle breeder in the countryside area, or I am a grower, and how can I transform and how can I reduce this emissions or this problems, and at the same time gain more money? Well, the private sector is constantly concerned about carbon emissions, especially agribusiness. So you've asked 3 questions, including monetization and fake news. The private sector has really started paying attention to this issue, and part of the agribusiness as well, which is the most modern part, largest companies, exporters. They've realized that part of that so-called monetization means having access to market. For these large business people, the main players in agribusiness, some of them learned that because they believe in it, others because of market pressures, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, they are really observing and limiting their emissions. They are not causing any deforestation. So they are doing that to have access to the international market. So if they take the extra mile, if they have the green gas and cut methane and carbon emissions, they end up getting more money. Coffee, organic coffee, for example, costs more in the international market. So the market, because of consumers, is already reacting positively to deal with that. So a forest product with a seal of origin also has better prices, can be exported to the US. There are some young people who took acai from the Amazon and went to California, and it worked beautifully. So a number of monetization strategies, because in Espírito Santo, for example, they have a large program. If you have a piece of land and preserve your water bodies, you get some additional payment from the authorities. It helps. It's not a lot, but it gets at the end of the year. It means a lot. They can buy a new piece of equipment, for example. And ultimately, I believe we are going to have more and hear more about the carbon market, which is going to be instrumental to Brazil. In Brazil, we can have a very good carbon balance because our productive system, our power generation system are extremely interesting. It would be so much easier to strike a good balance because we have clean energy sources. 80% of our power is renewable power. So great, I think, if we can stop putting fires in the landing areas and really start sequestering carbon, which is something just extremely easy. It's just a matter of learning the process. I'm sure we would go into a positive balance and we would start getting money, which is full compensation for provision of environmental services to the whole world. It's not simply funds or things like that, as the government expects. Well, you have to pay for it. It's not like that. There is a whole science, a whole understanding behind it. And finally, to talk about fake news, which is something that really harms all of us. Well, we've seen that with vaccination. Misinformation has taken many to avoid taking a vaccine. Fortunately, in Brazil, it was not that bad. In the US, they are trying to just call everyone and using so many campaigns to have people get vaccinated. In Germany as well. In Germany, there's been a new increase in COVID cases in some specific regions where people have not taken vaccines. And they have high viral load, and because of that, they become threats to the others because we don't know to what extent the vaccine will really be able to protect everyone. So ideally, we wouldn't like to have those small clusters of high viral load. So fact-checking and information reliability sources are the best initiatives to really fight against fake news. Numbers have shown us that Brazilians trust science, and you've probably seen that. Now there is over 80% confidence in science in Brazil, despite everything that the government does to convince us of the other. But fake news is something that has to be regulated. So that we can really improve collective rights and society rights. And this is a very good discussion that finally has started after large platforms had been disseminating wrong information. But I think that we are shortly going to have a solution towards that. You probably recall 20 years ago, when the large platforms came into place, everybody used to say that the world was going to get closer, people would be better informed, and that would reduce social inequalities, and nothing has happened. Quite to the contrary, these social media platforms have given voice to people who just say bullocks, and they have given a voice to ill-intended politicians, and this is something that has to be revisited. Well, thank you very much, José Roberto Marinho. Thank you so much for all your explanations and discussions. I am sure it has been extremely useful for all of those who have joined us today, and also for those who are going to get engaged and follow us in our platforms and networks. I would like to thank you very much for your availability, for your time to share with us your wisdom. I would like to greet you and your organization for having really sponsored the information consortium of communication companies that has really provided us an opportunity to keep track of COVID data in real time, really taking all the measures that was required. I would really like also to thank the Brazilian population for having accepted the vaccination campaigns. And I would also like to pay homage to the over 600,000 people in Brazil who died of COVID-19. I would like really to show our solidarity and say that Brazilian health has been fighting heavily to really deal with that. I'd like to thank healthcare professionals who have worked so hard, who are really putting their own lives at risk to protect ours. Thanks everyone, all healthcare professionals in Brazil, for everything that you've done during the pandemic, which is coming to its end, fortunately, and soon we'll be able to all be together, embracing, meeting, interacting, moving ahead with our lives. Thank you very much, José Roberto Marinho. Have a great week. See you soon. And we hope to see you all today at 4 for the opening meeting of Simetria with the Governor of Rio Grande do Sul, Eduardo Leite. Thank you very much.